Safe to say that we love the Hyundai Kona here in Ireland, because if you're in traffic, look around, you'll see one, whether it's a petrol one or an electric one. This new version has just launched in Ireland. It has a combination of a 1 litre, just straight up manual petrol engine, and then you've got a 1.6 hybrid, a self-charging hybrid, so you don't have to plug this in. Don't worry, if you do want to plug it in, there's an electric version of the Kona coming later on in the year. Probably October time before we start to see these on roads, but you can order one now. If you go into your dealership, you can put a deposit down. So what do you think of it? It's like a kind of a Tucson Junior. In fact, that's what they're calling it in Hyundai Ireland. You have this really bright strip along the front of it, matched with an equally really bright strip along the back of it. The last version is kind of round and friendly looking. This is still friendly looking, but it certainly borrows cues from the Tucson, particularly the rear quarter of the car. So there's certainly a styling change. Current generation Tucson certainly is a car that when it came out, everyone was like, oh, it's nice looking. What do you think of this version? The nose is quite rounded here at the front, so it's still friendly, but it looks like a bigger car. If you're going for the hybrid version, you've got Signature and Elegance. They're the top specs of that. It's an automatic 1.6. And then the N-Line, which comes in the petrol, is kind of the same price. It's about €36,000. So you're paying for the extra upgraded wheels. You got an N badge in the front of it, and you can hear it just start up here now, and then it'll fall silent, and it'll do things like pull away from traffic in just EV mode. And a lot of the time, it will just be ticking along nicely. And if you do need to use the petrol engine, then it's between sort of high 4 litres per 100 kilometers. So it's pretty decent on fuel. These are very large. The housing around the front and rear wheels, as is the side skirt on the car, makes it feel bigger, makes it feel taller, and gives the car a more rugged feel. That's the idea of them. And a big crease from the front right the way through the back, very similar to the Tucson. You've got roof rails also in this car, and a boot spoiler. And you've got a bit of chrome, aluminium style trim going on here. So it looks very premium in fairness. As I mentioned, this rear light comes right across the panel. Huge Kona lettering on the back. A little bit of chrome, brushed aluminium sort of vibe to split up the difference then. Bit of storage down here. There's a tire mobility kit if you get caught out of the side of the road. I've always been quite skeptical of them, because I think it's a very stressful situation if you get a flat tire at the side of a motorway or late at night or whatever. But a couple of people have told me they've used these kits and it's been fine. You're getting a rear wiper. I'm mentioning this more and more in videos because you wouldn't believe the amount of cars that are just making them disappear. But the Kona has a wiper. Everyone stand down, relax. You're not really climbing massively high up into the vehicle, but there's a bit of a step for those of you who enjoy a slightly higher ride situation in the car. I think most people will get on very well in the back of it. You've got good knee room. The bench kind of sits a bit high. There's nice high support on the back of it. You get an armrest, which again in this segment of vehicle isn't always the case. Loads of head space as well for passengers. I mean, it's going to carry 5 people, but certainly 4 you'd be more comfortable. You've got your own air vents back here also, and there's 2 USB-C charging ports for either passenger, and that's kind of telling you perhaps as well that, you know, it's a 4-seater car. But yeah, very little to complain about back here. It's nice and bright. The door pillars here on the side, the shoulders of the doors kind of give you enough light, so smaller people and kids might be happy enough. And you'll be pleased to know that the windows go all the way down, which again some kids like to complain about, but they won't in the Kona. Not a bad interior inside the new Kona. If you like physical buttons, you're going to love it, because there's a lot. So you can shortcut to media, to maps, back to home, aircon, heated seats. There's more buttons down here for controlling, for example, your reversing camera, which the car has. It's got a lot of safety stuff on board, so it has highway assist. It can read the speed sign, adjust the speed of your radar cruise control accordingly. Depending on what model you get, you'll get blind spot as well. Nice visuals. Again, we've seen these in Hyundai before. Nothing really new there, but we know they're reliable and solid. You can see what way the motor and engine is working. Is it using battery power or the electric motor, or is it using your petrol engine to propel you forward? Huge space down here for drinks. They have the kind of wraparound buttons that you push out and things pop down. You've got an armrest with a little removable tray in here as well. So So they kind of thought of lots. You've got heated seats and heated steering wheel on this particular model, and then you got drive mode. You've got snow, which will hopefully increase the traction by reducing the initial burst of torque in the car, particularly in the electric version. You're going to want that if you're driving this in a colder country. Nice quality on the materials used. You don't get a pull-out drawer like the Ioniq 5 or 6, however. And there's extra charging options here. You've got wireless, you have cables, it's all USB-C, by the way, inside the vehicle. And you got shortcut buttons here on your steering wheel, and very similar. They're always slightly different, but again, the drive selector is down here underneath the steering wheel, much like the Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6. Plenty of good graphics on the screen as well. You can split it, have your nav here on the left, which goes into white, not dark mode, or bright mode, or day mode, whatever they call it, when you go here. Don't seem to be able to get that part to go into dark mode, but then when you go back into home, everything darkens down and goes black. And you've got a driver monitor here, which is becoming more and more common in cars, and that knows within seconds if you're not looking out the windscreen. If you even are checking out a member of the opposite or same sex outside your window, it will warn you to keep your eyes on the road and pay attention. So driver monitoring, something we're going to have to probably get used to. I'll delve through in the longer test drive I get with this car to see, can you turn elements of it off? Certainly in the Ioniq 6 you could, but if you turn things off, it didn't tell you then what speed you were doing in the instruments. So there was kind of trades off if you decided to reduce some of the monitoring aids. It was like, yes, you can do that, but you're going to lose this. So it was trying to entice you probably to keep it on. But I think most people will be happy enough. It is black, it is plastic. Standard colours will be black cloth. Might be nicer with a bit of difference going on, but the roof lining is obviously brighter, so that kind of splits it all up. Generally pretty quiet driving experience inside the Kona, because a lot of the time, especially if you just ease off that throttle, you'll see EV mode pop up on the bottom of the instruments, and you'll realise you're using the battery basically to propel yourself. It is actually quite firm. Like, these aren't the biggest alloys in the world, but it's a firm enough setup. I can't say it's soft anyway, put it that way. I'm averaging around sort of 4.8 litres per 100 kilometres, which for a self-charging hybrid seems pretty decent. Certainly the standard you'd expect is around 5. So they've obviously extracted just a little bit more efficiency from this newer version of the car. I suppose aerodynamics are getting better and better on cars all the time as well. It's got a little bit of steering assist on this car. If you veer too close to the lane here, it'll just try and nip you back in to the centre of the road and keep you steady. If you're wondering about fuel economy, full tank of this is about 650 kilometres, and then you'll get some charge on the way as well. The 1 litre, it's 120 brake horsepower. You'll probably end up working that more, so in a strange way you're going to get more efficiency actually out of this version of the car, because it's got the hybrid thing going on, but you've got to pay a little bit extra to get into that. So is the trade-off over maybe 3 years if you keep in the car? If that's 3 grand, 4 grand extra, will you save that much in petrol, or are you better off just looking at the money in your pocket? It's up for you really to decide, but it's worth weighing it up. It's doing clever things like picking up that there's a school in front of me here, St. Patrick's National School in Chapel Izzard, and there's a little warning on the dashboard, little posh D there in the bottom of the display, just to make you aware. It's currently sitting in eco mode, and as I said, doing pretty decent levels of EV mode. A little bit of the petrol engine there now coming into life to accelerate away from a set of lights. It does a lot of beeps at you. Like, as soon as you go, like, obviously over the speed limit, and I mean, like, you might be doing 51 and a 50, it beeps to warn you. The little sensor has a little red eye moment. You know that little eye signal or little eye display when you're using a password on a website? It's like that, just flashes red to say that it's decided you're not paying attention. You might be paying attention, that's the thing. It's a little bit trigger happy, if I'm being honest. Then acceleration is good. This obviously is the higher output version of the car. It's a little bit noisy when you're trying to get some power out of the engine, but it does move. I think the question is about the price though of the electric model. It always feels like the Kona has been the electric car for people that didn't want to spend huge amounts of money. And I mean, it's getting better now obviously, but it was a space that there wasn't many options if you didn't want to be driving the more expensive stuff. So I hope the electric version of the Kona stays like that. If they do manage to get it even at 39 something, you know, the price variation between the entry level and the electric car will still be €10,000 in the difference. It's going to be a minimum of that really. But I just hope the Kona continues to be that car for people that don't have huge budgets but want to drive an EV. It's a lot of beeps. A lot of beeps. Like, it should know it's summertime, that school isn't open, but it is telling me that it's a 30 zone as I go by a school. But that should be flexible because, as I said, it's summertime. School's out, man. Handles well too, actually. Sharp little hander. I do like, I mean, I'm always saying it, I just like a hatchback. They're just better to drive. They really are. So give my thoughts, final thoughts on the car now in a second. Do come back to me later on in the year. We'll have this car for a longer range drive. I'll give you more of kind of feedback on it. But initial thoughts are, it's kind of a solid little car. Decent enough space, decent enough interior. It's good quality. There's a lot of tech beeping at you, but that's kind of the way of the world in modern cars. And Hyundai. Have I called them Hyundai once in this video? Probably not. Here it is again. It's kind of the way things are going, but thankfully sometimes you can turn these things off. Go on, beep again, go on. Go on. Go on. Won't do it now. Nose are watching. So what do you think of the new model from Hyundai? It's kind of the baby that's got a little bit bigger, you know, it feels like there's more interior space. I think the pricing is pretty on point on it, like starting from just over €30,000. Sure, at the higher end of things at 36 odd, you might start to look at some of the other Hyundai offerings. Certainly the electric versions. Is it going to be 40? Is it going to creep past 40? I think if it was just under the €40,000 mark, it would be competing with things like the Renault Megane, which this is possibly a little bit bigger. The Kia Niro, e-Niro, similar type of situation. What do you think of this colour as well? It's kind of like a toothpastey green. It kind of works. I saw the car in black and navy and white. Didn't see a silver one. That kind of wine Hyundai colours available obviously as well. I think you could be brave enough to just get something bright to split up the contrasting plastics with this. But I think overall it's a pretty solid job, and possibly going to get people that weren't in Konas before now looking at it because it's a bit more aggressive. There's the engine kicking in again. And if you're an existing Kona, I don't think it's going to offend you. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you very much for coming this far in the video. You might consider subscribing if you've managed to stick with me this long. Maybe you want to be a pal of the channel. So hit subscribe. I'll talk to you in the next one.